Welcome to the Real Estate Wisdom Podcast. In today's episode, we are thrilled to have Jeff Gingerich, a seasoned sales rep with Century 21 Heritage House, as our special guest. Jeff brings over 3 decades of experience in selling real estate in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. He holds a Lifestyle 55 Plus Master designation, reflecting his expertise in catering to the unique needs of seniors and baby boomers. Jeff's commitment to lifelong learning and passion for giving back to the community have been the cornerstones of his successful career. In 2019, he was honored as Century 21's Canada Sales Associate of the Year, a testament to his outstanding professional achievements. Beyond his professional endeavors, Jeff is an active contributor to his local real estate association and a dedicated fundraiser for Easter seals. His deep involvement in community service was recognized when his company awarded him the 2019 Community Service Leadership Award. Jeff's multifaceted life also extends to his role as a parent and an empty nester. Alongside his wife, Bridget, a travel agent, together they seize every opportunity to explore new destinations. When he is not immersed in the world of real estate or embarking on adventures, Jeff enjoys staying active, whether it's through keeping up with his Labradoodle, Stella, or hitting the field for some slow pitch softball. So join us as we delve into Jeff's wealth of experience and glean insights from his journey in the ever-evolving real estate landscape. Welcome, Jeff.
Well, thank you, Vishal. I appreciate that. Hopefully I can lend some wisdom to the episode.
Well, definitely you have a lot of wisdom. 35 years. You just completed 35 years.
Yes.
In real estate.
It goes by fast.
Oh, wow. So like when you started selling real estate, when you were like what, 10-year-old?
Well, thank you. No, I was 25.
Oh, wow. Well, that's great. And I'm so honored to have you over here on my podcast. And because you're doing this so much, not only for the community, but Century 21 Canada itself. We met at a Century 21 conference. You came to our office as well with one of the training program. And every time, who doesn't know Jeff? If Century 21 Canada, everybody know Jeff. So welcome again.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how's life? How things?
Oh, it's good. It's good. Yes.
I know. I was reading your profile and saying I'm reading his bio, and he'll love to travel, and good to have a travel agent at home, right?
Absolutely. He does a wonderful job.
Awesome. And this time I got the deal from somebody else. Now I know I probably reach out to Bridget for my next travel destination deal.
Yeah, she'd be happy to help.
She will help you to help, of course. Just like you, I think it runs in the family to helping others, right? So, real estate market, that's what we talk about, and that's why we're here. And I think we want to look into what insight you can provide and the current state of the Kitchener-Waterloo real estate market, particularly in terms of residential properties, and that's what you focus on mostly, right?
Right.
And what trends have you observed in the Kitchener-Waterloo area real estate market over the past year, and how do you see these trends evolving in the near future? I know it's a lot of questions, but I let you speak, like what you're seeing and how over the years have changed Kitchener-Waterloo.
Sure. So I would say over the past year, probably the effect of the rising interest rates has been the biggest driver of change. Coming out of last spring, prices had gotten elevated again.
Yeah.
We had a fairly competitive market last spring, I would say up until maybe May.
Right.
And then the rates went up and up and up and up, as you know, and so that was sort of the peak of last year's market. I think by November, prices had dropped about 8% off of their high in the spring. And so currently, and so this is the end of January when we're doing this, and we're seeing quite a bit of traffic at open houses. One of the trends that I've identified is the first-time buyers are out in droves.
Right.
And so we're starting to see the activity pick up, which is typical for this time of the year.
Yeah.
And so, that's one of the things that we tend to forget about our business is the seasonality.
Correct.
At least in I don't want to say the old days to date myself, but
Yes.
in years gone by, the typical year, 2/3 of the buying and selling was done by the end of June.
Correct.
Right, so that only leaves a third over the balance of the year, and sometimes we forget that when we look at the fall market and a lack of
Right.
activity or a lengthened market time to sell properties or these sorts of things.
Right. Right. No, you're absolutely right, because it used to happen. I will say like the pre-COVID era, when we have these seasons. And after that, what happened, because people were working from home and seasons like the gone away kind of thing, right? People were buying in January. People were buying in July, August. And it was like, seems like it was going just linear. Doesn't matter what season it is, right? But like, since COVID has gone, like now people back to work, and now people vacationing a lot. July, August is usually dead. And even January was not that great. But this year, I'm already seeing that, just like I said, I think it's similar like what happened in Halton area, and even Peel region, that from last 1 week, we started seeing changes. People cannot hold off buying houses for long. But also they're looking at the opportunity where they can invest or they can buy. So first-time home buyers, I totally understand that. I refer like so much business in Kitchener-Waterloo. I did myself some of the business, my dedicated client with me, but I prefer, because I don't know exactly the whole Kitchener-Waterloo area. So I prefer referring that business to local realtor who can help my client better. And when it's coming out to knowledge, like because in depth about your local area. So what are the average prices in Kitchener-Waterloo area?
I would say average overall, including the condominiums and everything, would be about $750,000.
Right. So it's still affordable, right? Yeah.
Well, relative to here, certainly.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, Oakville is like a little bit odd, like Oakville, Richmond Hill, these areas, like, it's a little bit of the chart. But at the same time, like, looking into the movement and where people moving and where people seeing the opportunities, that's really important in real estate investment, as well as like people buying first time, right? And Kitchener-Waterloo, like, it's booming like from last, I will say like, 4 or 5 years. Right, or more than that, actually.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, since it's a little Silicon Valley of Canada, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think I had a statistic on that. Between 2016 and 2021, the average real estate price doubled in the Kitchener-Waterloo area.
Right. And where I can do that investment kind of like, in 6-7 years, like, almost like more than double.
Mm-hmm.
If you look into the art, like what happened recently in last 2 years when the market is slow, within 5 years, like it's got double, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. I know with opportunities, there's always come some challenges, right? And so can you discuss the challenges that the Kitchener-Waterloo real estate market is currently facing, such as the reported decrease in home sales, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's really an affordability issue. The elevated prices and the elevated interest rates make it difficult to qualify
Correct.
for a mortgage. So, a buyer can get something in the 5% range for 5 years,
Right.
Fixed term, but with the stress test, of course, they have to qualify at 7.
Correct.
And so then the challenge becomes that people aren't making enough to qualify for the house that want or that they could have had a year ago or 2 years ago.
Right.
So we may be getting back into a situation where it was like it was years and years ago, where you started with a starter home because that's what you could afford. And then after a certain time, you moved up and possibly moved up again.
Yes.
where these past years with low interest rates, we had the first time buyers going out and buying the house that their mom and dad owned after all these years.
That's right.
Because they could qualify for it.
Right.
So I think maybe that might be a shift that I've identified, is that they're going to have to settle, if that's the right word, for what they can afford, and then make their changes from there.
Right. I think like the challenges are like very similar, like what happening in GTA, right? And one thing, what I like about Kitchener-Waterloo, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is the Kitchener-Waterloo doesn't rely on Toronto downtown job market, right? They have self-sustained economy, right?
Yeah.
And that's what making it unique. And I definitely want to hear from you. What make it unique, Kitchener-Waterloo area, and why people should consider Kitchener-Waterloo area?
Well, we have, with the University of Waterloo, we have a lot of the best and the brightest settling in the area. Because when they graduate from school,
right,
the jobs are there. They have lived in the community now for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and
right,
they understand what a great place it is to live. So a lot of them are putting down roots in the Kitchener market. So it's interesting. I don't know if you do this, but it might be a tip for you when it happens. But when I have a listing,
right,
and the buyer's offer comes in, and of course their surname is on the offer,
right.
So I always Google the surname to see, if I can gain any insight from my clients in terms of who they are and what they could, and occupation, because typically LinkedIn would be a source for that information. And it's amazing how many times they're involved in the local tech industry in some degree or another.
Yeah. No, I think you probably don't remember, because you say all the time when you're coming for the training or showing your expertise in this area. But you did mention that, and I do follow that as well in searching it, like, who's coming and who's purchasing, and because in that way you can get the insight, like, what kind of demographic is coming in, what kind of people coming in, what kind of profession they are in, and that will give us more, like, you're involved in the local real estate board, so am I, like, in Oakville Milton Real Estate Board, and we able to get like those insight, like, because normally people don't see it, and that's what make you who you are, like, experienced realtor who know the nerve of the your market and where the shifting, and also you can predict. And most of the time, I think you're right, because you're seeing the shift on the ground level, right? So how many transactions? Like, I never asked. I know you got awarded, like, in 2019, and that's a big achievement in Canada wide, like, being a realtor of the year. And so what do you see over there in Kitchener-Waterloo area
in terms of the number of transactions?
Yeah.
Well,
what do you see, and how many transactions you do, like, an average, if it's okay to tell?
Okay, yeah, I would say 25 to 30 in a typical year.
All right.
The transactions were down last year.
Right.
And I think, again, that was owing to the affordability issue. But it was still a good year, and I think it's important that we put things in perspective, right? And so if we've had a number of great years and we have a good year, then that's certainly still a net positive.
Yeah, no, that's great. I know even those kind of transactions are happening, and I know, like, a lot of you get the referral as well. I know where the people coming from, where the most of the buyers coming from to invest in Kitchener-Waterloo, or they're deciding to live over there.
Well, I would say a combination of the two. Just to give you a bit of background, we have a light rail transit system called the ION.
Yes.
And so that is relatively new to Kitchener-Waterloo.
LRT, right?
Yeah. So that has been, let's see, maybe 10 years ago we decided to build it, and then it took a while to build it out, and now it is up and running. It was up and running just prior to COVID. And so it has really gained a lot of traction. But what we saw then as a result of that, because remember, when you do track, that's permanent. Where, and I'll use London as an example. London chose to do buses, And so the challenge then becomes you can change a bus route any day of the week where you're not moving the track. So now we saw a tremendous amount, like we're talking into the billions of dollars of investment in condominium high-rises and also rental high-rises into the area, of course, along the line. And so I would say a lot of the investors are probably from the GTA, and their tenants are probably going to the university or working after university and that sort of thing. So it has been a tremendous boon to the community. It was a lot of upheaval with the construction. But now that we're past that, it's certainly been a positive.
That's great. And I talked about like on our previous episodes as well. With that, that's what we need, like infrastructure. That's what we need if you want to solve these housing problem is interconnectivity within a city. Make it more walkable and more. Less traffic is going to be because less cars going to be, and it's also like more convenient. In that people coming from one place to other place. And I think that's what happened during COVID. A lot of people moved from this side to suburbs, places like Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge, Brantford, even London, because they can work from home. But a challenge always being for any city to grow or develop is about the infrastructure, how you go from point A to point B. And you just mentioned that we're already seeing that advantage of LRT. On that point, which you mentioned is interesting, that the most of the condominium and even the rental apartments got built along LRT. I know I'm talking about before COVID, whereas in Waterloo area, student housing was the one of the big thing, right? People were these are old houses, I remember, and there was 2 or 3 students are living there or 4, and they're partying. And I go on those houses and look into and say, oh my God, how they live. The condition of those houses were bad. And but they were cheap, $400, $500, you can get the rent. And prices for the houses of $150,000 to $200,000 that time, $250,000. But I think it's changed now because of the new buildings came out, a better lifestyle for students, more convenience. Because I think a lot of the maintenance, everything. Sorry, I just giving from my going flashback when I was shopping for one of my client who wants to buy the multiplex, who wants to buy the student housing for that same purpose. But I think a shift was happening that time. So what do you see right now? What shift happened, and it's for good or it's for bad?
Well, I think the challenge again for the students is the affordability.
Exactly.
And because when you identified that you could rent a place for $400 or $500, and it was a room in a wartime house, and it may or may not have been properly vetted as far as the fire and what have you. But now with the condominiums, now we're $800-900 a month for rent, right? And so the challenge becomes, like everyone, how do you, so some kids are piling 2 into a room just to make it affordable and that sort of thing. So it's been a net positive. The buildings, are there's certainly as there's quite a number of them right around the universities.
Right.
And so my hope is that the houses around there, the ones that remain, of course, because some of them had to come down to put up the high-rises, but that the houses around there would then come back to being used for families.
Right.
That obviously creates some vitality within the neighborhood. Of course, we need some kids and and
Yes.
parks and all of that sort.
And I think, like, what was the, you said it right, but one of the challenges over there was also even people don't want to invest in student housing, but in that area, buying something cheaper. And some families, like, want to stay as a tenant because it's cheaper, because they don't have a choice. But the soon they have a choice, they leave that. Like, and so how was the rotation in terms of vacancy rate, in terms of how was the vacancy rate over there? Or how is it right now?
I would say it's still very low.
Right,
Um, maybe the newer the building,
right,
right? The ones that are coming online now,
right.
of course, the prices are higher. So therefore, the rent needs to be higher. So some of those people might be hitting a wall in terms of what they have to invest and what they can ultimately rent it for. So there, you may see some negative cash flow with some of the newer buildings, but demand is certainly still strong at the right price point.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, definitely, like, that's the hard to find the positive cash flow these days. But are there still the opportunities over here buying those, like, the rundown kind of houses, which people still flipping and uh, making it, renovating it and making it better?
I would say in limited circumstances, um, because the costs have risen substantially. So really two possibilities. If you're doing the work yourself,
Right,
rather than hiring trades people, you might be able to make a profit
right,
to flip. And the other opportunity that I see is probably the bungalows where you put an apartment in the basement,
right.
right? So now that will cash flow because you've got
That's
two
right.
rents.
Correct, correct. And that's why, like, that was the interest from a lot of people over there, is buying the duplex or triplex over there, so they can rent out, 2 or 3 tenants. And even the vacancy rate, because most of the time is guaranteed, because they're going to study over there, and then start renting out like around June. I think if it's not June, you're too late to even get that.
Usually the beginning of May.
Beginning of May, actually, and then stay till August, right? So I think, like, that's a great opportunity over there. So Kitchener-Waterloo area. Yeah. Let's. I now it's Cambridge. Like, it's all come out they all come in the same board now, right? The
Yes.
Cambridge, yeah. Cambridge. So let's see Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge. Can you give me a little bit short, like, if you have to differentiate between Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge? What the uniqueness about that, and how they're still interconnected?
Mhm. So I would say traditionally Waterloo was the white collar city and Kitchener was the blue collar city.
Right.
But that was back when we had factories.
Right.
So many of the factories were in downtown Kitchener. A lot of those same factories have come down to put up the high rises that we see along the light rail transit. So, and some repurposing as well. Google has a big presence in downtown Kitchener. They have a new and shiny glass building, but it's added on to a renovated factory. So if you're ever in downtown Kitchener, check it out. It's
quite
spectacular.
Amazing. Yeah, I saw that. Like, I was visiting a couple years ago, and my daughter going to university, so we get the chance to go to Waterloo, and so we roam around over there big time.
Yeah. So traditionally, the incomes were a lot higher in Waterloo as a result. So the last numbers that I saw, and this is just going to be, a very broad generalization, but I think the average household income in Waterloo was about 115,000, and in Kitchener, I believe it was around 95,000, and Cambridge was 85,000. So that has probably changed, though, because a lot of the GTA folks that relocate,
Right.
they like Cambridge because you can jump on the highway and go. So it's, you save yourself.
Plus Toyota factory over there. I know. So, I know I did some relocation because I work with the relocation company as well. So a couple of my Toyota employees, they settle over there. Yeah.
And I think the LRT is slated to get to Cambridge.
Okay.
It's going to require a substantial investment. So it was a partnership. The initial project was a partnership between the federal government, the provincial government, and the local regional government.
Right.
And the cost to go to Cambridge has probably
Is LRT the part of Metrolinx?
no. It's separate. It's
But
part
still,
of,
but it still get connected with the GO train and everything. So
Right.
that's the other thing, right?
Right.
The connectivity from Kitchener-Waterloo to GTA. Downtown.
yes.
It's coming to Mississauga, I believe, and it's like there's a train going on, or is it just a GO bus still?
There is both.
Yeah.
What our goal, I know the Chamber of Commerce has been quite vocal in trying to get two-way all-day GO service
Right.
with the train.
Right.
I think there's really a shortage of track, and so I think
Yeah.
it comes down to just there's too much demand and not enough opportunity. So the buses fill the gap in between the trains.
Yeah, and I know the buses are very efficient. The reason I can tell you because one of my client friend, he used to live in Kitchener-Waterloo, but he used to come to work in Mississauga. And I know I got the chance to drop him off like a few times to the Erin Mill or Winston Churchill, that's the area where their GO station is, and to drop it off. And it was taking like 45 to 50 minutes,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so
the neat thing too is that you're not driving, so you have connectivity and you can work while you're.
yeah, especially in winter and storm, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's make so helpful. I just wish they create more tracks. Milton is due big time because Milton's still the same thing, and not many tracks. And same thing. I think connectivity is great, but now they have to expand on that part where they should be investing, in my opinion, right? So yeah, that's great. So you're differentiated between Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo. Now let's talk about the opportunities, right? What opportunities do you see for real estate investment in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, especially considering its unique trails and initiatives? Where are you seeing the most opportunity?
Well, I've said for a while now that I think Cambridge is the place to invest long term. We don't really have any idea when the light rail transit is going to get there, but I suspect that we'll see the same transformation that we saw in Kitchener-Waterloo once it does get there.
Right.
They have identified the route,
Right.
so I believe that is set in stone, and so so now the smart investors are saying, okay, if the track is going to be there, then this is where we need to focus.
Right.
And so I don't know if you've been to downtown Galt, but I would particularly identify downtown Galt as a good opportunity. I think a small town in Europe would be what I would describe the setting as.
Right, yeah.
With the river going right through there, and
No, it's beautiful.
and so there'll be vast opportunities, I think, once the light rail gets there. And again, we're talking probably 10 years at a minimum in terms of when it's built out,
Right.
I suspect. But, if you want to take a long-term view of your investment, as you probably should, then I think it'll be promising.
Oh, absolutely right. And the real estate investment, in my opinion, is a long-term game anyway. Like in any investment, we look into that, but like real estate particularly, and looking that opportunity, I think the growth is going to be because you're looking far away. And by the time the LRT and everything come out, just like Kitchener-Waterloo, prices will go high, right? And that time it's like, I wish I should have bought it that time. But I know this is always thing. So mark Jeff's word, Cambridge is the upcoming one. If you're thinking of investing, you invest in Cambridge. And if you need the local insight, who I can refer to that business. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Now, looking to like there in each community or each town or city, there are different kind of properties, right? Can you share some insights on the performance of different types of properties? Example, like detached, semi-detached homes, townhouses, apartments in the Kitchener-Waterloo market. Which do more, which do a little bit less in terms of appreciation, and also looking to if I'm doing like a rental investment or rental property.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they've all done well recently because, as they say, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Right.
But I think right now, probably the detached houses are doing a little better.
Right.
But that said, I would maybe say the detached houses below $1 million.
Right.
So the homes above $1 million, again, a little tougher to qualify. You probably need both a substantial down payment and a substantial income.
Right.
At this point. And so, to me, the challenge with condominiums has always been this, that they keep building and building and building, and then at some point there's too many, right? And so supply is a little tougher to control as an investor.
Right.
Where, let's use Waterloo as an example.
Right.
Waterloo is landlocked. There is no more serviced land to build on in Waterloo. So, will we see some small houses coming down and big ones going up? Yes, we're already seeing that.
Right.
But
so intensification is happening over there as well.
Right. But there's only so much of that you can do, and even then, it's not feasible for everyone.
Right.
We've seen people spend in the Colonial Acres area, for instance, which is a nice high-end homes in that area.
Right.
We recently saw someone buy a $1.2 million house and take it down, and is putting up a new house. So,
right.
I would say, detached, because again, there's a limited supply. We are bumping up against the township, so unless there is some appropriation of that land by the municipality, which typically they're not keen to do.
Right.
We're only building up rather than out. Right?
Yeah.
Kitchener's a little different. We have more service land in Kitchener, particularly on the 401 side in the south end, and so they're still building there. In general, we're reluctant to chew up farmland, but the builders seem to get their way.
Yeah, they're pushing on it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a pros and cons and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
We cannot get everything what we want, right? But it's also if they do it sensibly and not taking the nature's beauty and making it look a more, affordable and convenient, that'll be great. But we know the land, they're not making it anymore, right? That's land, they're not making it anymore, and that's why the prices go up and up.
Yeah. If I could just come back to the condos for a minute too, I think the other issue there over time, because we're taking a long-term view of our investment, is the fees.
Right, condo fees.
Right. So the older the building, the more
maintenance,
repairs it needs, and so we've got some buildings geared to seniors. They're maybe built in the late 80s, early 90s, and the fees are approaching $1,000 a month. And if you talk to the owners, they've essentially doubled in 5 years. And so, if you're living on a fixed income, you've got to be careful. And that's why, of course, you need a good realtor by your side to advise you, okay, not that one, but this one, right?
Exactly.
Because we particularly with the effect we've had of inflation, people living on a fixed income, it's not like they can go out and get another job. Right? They're in many cases they have what they have, and they don't want to burn through it any faster than they have to.
No, absolutely right. And the one challenge is always going to happen. I know the government have, that's what they're asking for, mid-rise building, high-rise building, intensification. But like one thing we're forgetting about that, like, you talk about the maintenance fee, and it's I know, like in the old days, like if you have $500 maintenance fee, it's like 100,000 worth of mortgage, right? Now it's changed a little bit because of the interest rate high and everything, but that's affecting it because buyers not winning. But at the same time, like the way, because intensification is happening, I think in the coming years, it's more and more mid-rise and high-density area and high-rise buildings will be coming. So people mindset need to change, or is going to change in looking into those, because I think like your generation, my generation, we always talk like single-family home is the home. Apartments is for rentals. Or like first time when you're coming in and you can't do anything, that's where you want to live. But I think like things are changing, and especially like help with the seniors now, because there's a lot of seniors there, and you specialize in there. What trends you're seeing, like what seniors want, what they're looking for?
Right. Well, I think that probably never changes. I've got a lot of people that would leave their house,
right.
Maybe it's a 2-story or a split level, and, they want to get to a bungalow because, of course, their knees are bad, their hips are bad, all of that
right.
sort of thing, right? The challenge is that, so the region came to our real estate association, I'm going to say maybe 10 years ago, might have been 12 years ago by now.
Right.
And they sat us in a room and they surveyed us, and they said, what do seniors want? And we told them, seniors want a bungalow at ground level where they can walk out to a patio or a deck, have a little garden or some flowers, a garage,
right.
in some cases a double garage. The region said, no, that's not in the cards. We're going to build high rises. And we said, well, not everybody's wanting to go from a house to a high rise. So the challenge then becomes, all these seniors are still in their house, and when we have a low supply of houses for sale,
right.
we haven't given them a good enough alternative to make the move. Right?
Good point. It's a really good point, because I can understand like it's a hard one. It's a hard one from coming out from living in the bigger house for all your life, and now whatever the life is left, you going on like a little shoebox, right? That's what they call it, like in the condo apartments and stuff. Well, I'm going to experience soon, because I'm just moving from, because just like you, like downsizing and everything, and I'm moving to apartment.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah, so living in the 3,000 square feet house, like, and I was going to 780 square feet condo. It's going to be different. I'll find out like what's going to be. I love like in the small places. At the same time, it's a lifestyle change. And it's not easy for a lot of people. And I'm going to find out, and maybe next time when we meet, I'll tell you how it's like.
I look forward to that. One of the great things about that is that you can just lock the door and go.
That's it. Like, that's one thing. What I'm excited about, like, and I don't have to shovel the snow. Okay? I don't have to cut the grass. Right? And it's not like I love it. I do it in terms of like cutting grass and maintaining landscape and everything. But it's also like too much work. And with our kind of work, like, we as much like if we get flexible about our work schedule and everything, sometimes it gets challenging. And I know it's going to rain, and then I didn't cut my grass, and next thing I know, like next week is really this tall, right? So it's challenging, but so I'm looking forward to that. We'll see how it goes. Anything else you want to add on the like housing part, like other opportunities you're looking into in that area? What will be the let's take this one, right? I know you're talking about like a lot of young demographics coming in Kitchener-Waterloo area. What do you advise to them when they're looking for their houses? What kind of houses they which they can be affordable. At the same time, they're looking into, but that could be good appreciation in over time, kind of thing.
Mm. Well, you know, I think, and believe me, they're not sexy, but the bungalow will never go out of style. And as the population ages, there's going to be more and more demand, and they're expensive to build now, so we're not going to see a lot of bungalows being built. So I would say, and the other option with the bungalow, you know, and I always gave this advice, they're recession-proof, because if you ever need to rent out the basement, you can.
Right.
Right. If mom and dad ever need to come and live with you, you have a spot for them. Right. It's they're versatile, and I think that's probably now, you know, as we've identified, a lot of the investors are also
looking for that. Yeah. So there's a competition there, right? So
so you may end up paying a premium for that. You know, as we chatted about, the other thing that you'll pay a premium for is that bungalow townhome with the garage. Whether it's condominium or whether it's freehold, there's a few of the freeholds around. There are more condominiums, but again, because there's such a limited supply of them, the demand is just fierce. You know, we have 12 offers on, you know, that type of thing, because they're not building anymore. And so, you know, my thought long term is that seniors are probably going to leave Kitchener-Waterloo as a result and go to places like Stratford and Tillsonburg, and, you know, places that are maybe a little more welcoming, a little more affordable, you know, a little slower pace, these sorts of things.
Right. So the demographics are changing, and that will bring, like, you know, a good thing and, you know, not so good thing, I should say. Not bad, but not so good things as well.
Yep.
But those are the opportunities. I can see that that's what's going to happen. I know we already talked about that. What advice would you give to someone looking to invest in the Kitchener-Waterloo real estate market? Now we're looking into the terms of not the first-time home buyers, but the investor. What are the areas in Kitchener-Waterloo, which is fastest growing area, and you see that is going to be, regardless, like, you know, prices going up, which we cannot stop. It's always going to go up. You probably have seen more than, like, you know, 3 decades of stuff, like, you know, how the market has changed and ups and downs, but prices keep on going up, right? So what are the key areas which you identify as the fastest growing area, or the neighborhood, I should say?
I would say the areas, we talked about walkable neighborhoods, and so I would say the two areas that I would identify would be uptown Waterloo and downtown Kitchener. Again, because of the light rail, the presence of the light rail, they're both walkable and accessible with the trains. So, you know, if you're, let's use the example, you're working from home, you probably don't even need a car. At that point, right? Because the LRT, you know, if you need to, you've got transit to get you to the LRT. You can walk all the shops, the restaurants, the parks. You know, it's a wonderful lifestyle, and of course, you can save on the cost of owning a vehicle, which is substantial.
Nice. So look at those opportunities over there. And like one thing I noticed in Kitchener-Waterloo area, the builders are quality builders. I know, I experienced like a few of them. One is like I saw like in Water Lily, what is the street name? And also like in the south, what's the name of the Kitchener? There's some good builders, like, you know, and I think that the work they have done, I can name like an Aviva. No, sorry, not the Aviva. What's the name of this? Avive.
Right.
Yes, yeah. They're good builders, right? And their workmanship is very good compared to what we see in GTA. I can say that.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because when years and years ago, when marketers would look at rolling out a new product,
right,
they would use Kitchener-Waterloo as a test market. And I think it's just because the people just were very down to earth and very value driven, and so they knew if the product was a success in Kitchener-Waterloo that it would play in other parts of the country.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that was a test area. So thank you for insight. But I was always wondering the quality of workmanship, like in this, those suburbs are phenomenal. And recently, I went to one of my friend. Actually, he bought like 2 or 3 properties in Goodrich, like all the way to Lake Huron. And I was amazed the workmanship and something come out standard. I never seen garage come all insulated, all drywalled, all like a light fixtures done. Like you walk in, it seems like you're walking in the room, and that's how they get that. That was their package. Like that's how it's going. I think like also how to attract the the homeowners or the buyers from GTA area. They have to give something extra. I think that could be one of the reason as well. But like it's amazed me how I love that how the wirings are tucked in the basement. It's all neat and clean, and all you have to do if you're finishing basement, just put the drywall and it's done. You don't have to do much.
Right.
Furnaces and hot water heater all tucked in, so giving like an open space. Very, very neatly done, which I don't see in unfortunately in GTA and even like North Oakville. I live in Oak. And sometimes I get disappointed to see why they're doing it like this way. But I think it's versus like a mass production focusing on smaller areas, make it different. So good to know there's a test market over there. I know you talk about Google and the tech company. We were there. Can you discuss the impact of these tech startups and the tech industry and the Kitchener-Waterloo area real estate market? I know there's more investments coming in with AI and stuff. What are you seeing? Like, can you name other companies, big companies who are there and which can bring more money to Kitchener-Waterloo area and economy?
Yeah. Well, it's when BlackBerry used to be, of course, when
Right.
they were in their prime, they were just a behemoth. And so I think what happened is that everybody predicted the demise of Kitchener-Waterloo on the basis of the demise of BlackBerry.
Right.
And so I think what we saw was the opposite, because I think what happened is this, that when they came out of school, BlackBerry offered them a job. And it wasn't the job of their dreams, but it paid well.
Right.
And so they made good money. They were able to save, buy houses, what have you. When BlackBerry then downsized, now they could say, okay, what do I really want to do, right? And so now they went out into the community and did the startups and
Right.
and had some funding and some experience. And so I think, if we look at what is going on now, I think that, BlackBerry was at the genesis of all of that. Well,
Right.
the university and BlackBerry
For sure. They can,
conjunction.
yeah.
So in terms of big companies that you might recognize, I would say OpenText. They are huge in the education field.
Right.
And we've got Communitech is the local company that all of the startups refer to and develop through.
Right.
There's some accelerator programs, where you can get your idea off the ground quicker with advice and from a mentor and financing opportunities and these sorts of things. So I would say I don't know if there's a home run waiting there. There probably is. I may not be aware of it, but there is so much going on in the community, and as you've identified, in AI, in quantum physics, in
Right.
robotics. They are the best and the brightest I would say between Toronto and Kitchener-Waterloo. tech ecosystem is world class.
Yeah, it is like world class. And would you recommend like a newcomers coming to Canada? Because a lot of people, they don't know. I know like these days with internet and everything, everybody know. When I came like 25 years ago, I didn't know about Kitchener-Waterloo. So people who are like looking into Toronto to settle down, would you recommend them to Kitchener-Waterloo because of the self-sustained economy over there and the growth which is going to see?
I would. Certainly the cost of living is going to be considerably lower.
Right.
And I think probably what we see, though, is the old thing where, a friend moves there and then you go visit them and you see how nice it is. And
Yes.
you think, hey, maybe we could live here, right?
Right.
So I think it would be a little bit daunting for someone to settle in Kitchener-Waterloo. Toronto might be the stopping point, and then a year or two
Right.
or 5 down the road, they might say, hey,
Let's go there. Yeah.
And I guess the one thing I would qualify with that is that we have, in many cases, the kids are going to the University of Waterloo, and the parents may relocate with them. And
Yes.
the family then would put down roots in the community.
No, that's absolutely right. And also, like, and I have seen in the past when, smart parents, I should say, they invested over there when their kids was going to university.
Mm-hmm.
And after 4 years, they decided either to pull out or because the appreciation happened, or they decided to become a landlord and rent out to the other students or other people. That trend is still going on over there.
It is. Again, maybe a little tougher now because of the mortgage qualification.
Right.
But these are people that typically have some assets at this point in their life.
Right.
And so, maybe they're pulling some equity out of their principal residence and then investing it in a student property.
Yeah, the things have changed a lot, because I know before that, people were saying rather than I'm paying $1,000 or $1,500 rent, I'd rather just buy it. And then what they were doing is they also asking other people to rent other 3-4 rooms, and they're paying out their mortgage, right? So their kid is almost have a free resident, which they didn't pay for whole year, and even they make money because those were the things was happening before. So, but I understand what you're saying, and also the one thing I didn't know for a long time, because I was not doing the student housing that much, but to get the mortgage, it's difficult when you say we're going to invest in student housing.
Yeah.
I know there's some few buildings made by Sage Property Management and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
One of my client was looking for there, so then I was researching and find out it's written on the comments that it's a student housing. Make sure bank might not approve the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Can you put some insight on that? Why bank doesn't do, and what challenges?
Well, I think, the challenge is really that it's a transitory thing.
Right.
And so roommates are changing and
It might get them more abuse, I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they're concrete buildings, so it's hard to really abuse them too much versus a wartime house.
Right.
So
Yeah, for
easier
sure.
to maintain from the investment standpoint, for sure.
Right. Right.
When we're in the growth phase, as we've been in for the past number of years, the banks will lend on anything, right? But then the minute there's a tightening, now they look at, okay, where do we want it? So
Right.
if you and I have a house over a roof over our heads, everybody needs that. That's the last thing you're going to stop paying on,
Oh, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
But if you've got investments and rentals and things, cottages or another, those are the sorts of things those are the first ones to show cracks. Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think that's really the challenge from the lender standpoint. And then, they have their analytics and their, so they understand, they're sharp. They understand
Yeah.
where to put their money in and in uncertain times.
Well, that's great insight, and that's what my learning was from there, looking to that perspective, like a lender's perspective, where they coming from, because it's cheaper. You can get those student condo like around 350,000 or something like that, and I'm talking about a couple of years ago. But like things was the challenging about the same time, not getting the mortgage. It was good because it was still giving you the return after paying the management fee and everything. It's still making some money. But that was like, if somebody have hard cash, it's better rather than getting the mortgage. Well, thank you for great insight. Like, finally, as a seasoned realtor with your experience, what wisdom can you share with our listeners about navigating the Kitchener-Waterloo real estate market?
Well, I would say right now, my advice would probably be sell first, right? Because, and particularly if you're coming from out of town, if I have a listing and you want to buy it and you've got a house in Oakville, I have no idea whether it's saleable or not, whether you've put the right price on it or not.
Ask me.
Yeah. Oh, no, 100%. But in general, we would be reluctant to accept an offer conditional on the sale of something outside of our market area.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you are looking at relocating, that's probably the thing to know. And there's always going to be opportunity. I always say, if you miss out on a property, don't worry about it. It's like a bus. There'll be another one along in 15 minutes, right? And so people have to understand that, if you're working with me and you've sold your house, I'm going to go to the ends of the earth to find the right home for you.
Right.
I'm not going to leave you in the middle of the street with all your belongings.
Right. Well, and that's what the thing is, like, keeping it simple, and you're there for them until the end, and even after, because you serve them like a lifelong. You're a lifelong realtor for them, and I'm really happy and proud on you, and as well, same time, feels more honored that you came to our podcast and provided your wisdom. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Vishal. I was honored to be invited.
Thank you again. Well, Jeff Gingerich, right? I keep on saying Gingerich, but Gingerich. Thank you so much. And if you'd like to get more wisdom about local market, today we did first time the Kitchener-Waterloo area. In our upcoming episodes, we also have local realtors. We're talking about their local market, so you understand better how that market works. So there's only one stop for Real Estate Wisdom, is Real Estate Wisdom Podcast by Wish. Watch us every Monday, listen to us every day, and don't forget to subscribe and share it. And last thing, don't forget to comment. We value your comments and your feedback so we can make things better, and what you want to listen from us, and is this podcast is useful to you in providing some value. So thank you for watching. Have a happy day. Bye for now. Disclaimer: the information provided in this podcast is for informational purpose only and should not be considered as financial or investment advice. Consult with your professional before making any real estate decisions.